Welcome into The Scoop, the premier UNC football recruiting podcast, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. All right, welcome into The Scoop. I'm your host, Ross Martin, joined by Don Callahan. What's going on, Don?
Not too much. Busy month of June. A lot of things going on, obviously work-wise and family-wise, kids getting out of school and all that sort of stuff. So, Ross, speaking of such, Ross is filming. Is this the first time you filmed from your childhood bedroom?
No, I think I've done it before, but quickly, this is The Scoop, presented to you by Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Thanks for listening. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Don sips his Inside Carolina mug. Make sure to go on YouTube, watch us there. This is The Scoop, UNC's premier football recruiting podcast. Yeah, I'm in Greensboro. Just spending a couple days with my mom. My dad is actually golfing in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
So I decided to spend a couple days here with my mother, my childhood bedroom, which has been converted into an office. I don't even sleep in here anymore, but these walls can talk, right, Don?
That's right. The things they've seen.
That's right.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah. I'm in Greensboro. Good stuff. Okay, Don, we have a big show. How are you doing? Good?
I'm doing good. Good.
Busy.
Excited. Busy. Very busy.
Busy. I mean, Don's been cranking out articles. I just went through and read a bunch of them. Took a couple of days off. I was at the beach. So I was catching up this morning on a bunch of stuff.
What beach you go to?
Well, I did a big Outer Banks trip. It wasn't like a beach trip. It was more like a tourist thing, kind of driving through the Outer Banks. And then down to Ocracoke Island. So did the whole Outer Banks up to Corolla, Kitty Hawk, down, we hit up Nag's Head and down through to Hatteras Island, Pea Island, and then took a ferry to Ocracoke and then ferry back to the mainland on the other side and back home.
I need to do something like that at some point.
Big old trip. Yeah, Outer Banks is great. It's hard to get to, but it's a great part of the state. Okay, let's get into the show. So UNC had 8 official visitors this weekend. It resulted in one commitment. Caleb Lavallee, a linebacker out of Georgia, committed to Tar Heels on Monday night, 7 p.m. So we're going to talk about him. He's a 6'1", 215-pound linebacker, kind of a mid to low 3-star, ranked 774 in the nation, 65 linebacker. So we'll get into Caleb Lavallee's commitment and recruitment. Am I pronouncing that right, Dom?
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it.
Lavallee. And then we'll get into the official visitors. So there were 8, Lavallee being one of them. We'll talk briefly about each official visit. There's a bunch of articles. I think Don's talked to all 8 and has articles up on, I think, 7 right now as recording this on Wednesday morning.
Burgess took a little bit. But we'll have that up by the end of the week.
Yeah, so all the official visitors, check out Inside Carolina Premium to get those interviews with all the 8 official visitors. By the time this podcast runs, it should be up. And then we're getting to, there were some camps this weekend too. So UNC had 2 one-day camps on Saturday and Sunday. Some brief scoop on that. Make sure to check out Don's weekly scoop for premium subscribers as well. There's more information on just a lot of different stuff. And then we'll end the show previewing 3 official visitors this week, actually, before the weekend. So a lot going on with UNC football recruiting, Don. How do you feel about it now, sitting here early June?
About recruiting in general, or just how the month is going?
The UNC football recruiting as we sit here in June. I mean, as we were talking off air, I just feel like it's all over the place. And there's just a lot of names, but not a lot of there's not like that big name or a couple big names that UNC's going after. It's kind of a disjointed cycle, in my opinion.
Yeah, there is a lot of situations where it's like UNC wants, 2 or 3 guys, and they're recruiting 6 or 7, and it's almost like a first come, first serve. Not in every situation, but almost like first come, first serve. And some situations, if they get certain guys, they'll take 2, they'll take 3 if it's 3 certain guys. So yeah, there's a little bit of flexibility in this. So I can imagine it's a little bit harder to kind of follow. But the weekly scoop this week, while it didn't kind of, I guess, give a great sort of path, it does kind of break down a lot of the recruitments. There's some guys who we kind of, all right, we're, just said we're going to throw them off the recruiting board for now, just because, UNC, there's no traction there. So it kind of cleans up a little, I guess, summer cleaning of the recruiting board to give a better idea of where things stand. So I mean, I definitely understand, but we'll have more clarity really in like a couple of weeks. But by the end of June, we should have a good amount of clarity, and probably heading into that final official visit weekend, which is the big official visit weekend for North Carolina, we'll probably have a better idea of just where things, I guess, the different paths that could occur.
Yeah, and with more commitments, which I think UNC expects to get over the next couple weeks, you'll have limited spots, which limits the amount of options. So the priorities will become more clear. But yeah, I feel like every year there's like these main targets that kind of are emerging at this point heading into the football season. And that right now, in my opinion, maybe I'm not doing a good job focusing on it, but it doesn't seem like there are guys that are standing out who really like UNC, that UNC really likes, that are becoming the big names, the high 4-star, 5-star type players. That's my opinion. I don't know if our listeners and subscribers feel the same way, but
yeah, I don't think you are that far off base, because I think the main thing is the talent in state hasn't been as good as it has. During the prior classes for Mack Brown. Last class wasn't very good either, but during the classes prior to that, and those guys, those in-state guys, everybody knows about, because by this point they've already made 5 or 6 visits to Chapel Hill, so you've heard about them a bunch. But UNC's recruiting more of out-of-state guys in this class out of necessity, and those guys naturally have only made maybe 1 visit to North Carolina, or maybe their official visit is their first. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's talk about the commitment UNC got on Monday. Caleb Lavalley, as I mentioned, a linebacker from Mableton, Georgia, Whitefield Academy, 2023 class, 6'1", 215, ranked 774 in the nation, 65th linebacker and 74th player in the state of Georgia. Don, he took an official visit this weekend to UNC. What happened? Why did he commit? And we'll get into more about him as a player.
So I think North Carolina had always been like the best fit for him, and he's always felt that way. But he wanted to go through the process, take all of his visits to make sure that it was indeed the best fit. And now he only took 1 official visit, but for those who followed his recruitment, he took a bunch of unofficial visits in the spring, and many of those unofficial visits were multi-day visits, including he took a 3-day visit to North Carolina, just to kind of get a feel for things. So some of the other schools involved were Vanderbilt, Florida State, Florida flirted with him a little bit, Northwestern, he visited there, Miami, Wake Forest, and he took extensive visits to those schools. But, North Carolina was just a great fit for him as far as the balance that he saw. I mean, he goes to a very academically challenging school in Atlanta. And so it fit him academically, and he felt like it fit him athletically also.
Yeah, and so I mean, looking through his offers, as you mentioned, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Kansas State, Louisville, Maryland, Miami, Minnesota, Northwestern, Ole Miss, Pittsburgh, Purdue, Syracuse, Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, West Virginia. Was like Miami and Florida and Florida State, were those committable offers, you think?
Yeah, I feel like from what I know, I felt like they were committable. I mean, Florida State, he visited multiple times, over a course of a lot of time. So I feel like, Florida State was inviting him over, so, a bunch. Yeah. So I feel like the Florida State one definitely was. Miami, I think you only visited once, but I mean, who knows? And maybe they were committable at one point and then they weren't committable eventually. But from the best I could tell, at least the Florida State one was committable.
Yeah, again, into his game. I mean, is he a middle linebacker? Is he kind of playing that Jeremiah Gemmel role?
Yes.
So he's one of those. Yeah. So talk about his role, position, and how he fits into UNC's defense, what he likes to do.
So when I went down to Atlanta for the Under Armour camp, I like to get as much bang for my buck for such a long trip. So, that Whitfield was one of the schools I visited, mostly because of him, and UNC had offered and was recruiting at the time an offensive lineman out of that same school. So it just made, sense to go by there. And so I actually got to spend a lot of time. I went by there before school opened, and spent a lot of time with both him and his head coach. And his head coach just, after Caleb had left, we talked a bunch to just about off the field stuff, how Caleb is the type of kid, I thank them for coming early. And the coach is like, this kid comes early to school all the time to work out. This is a kid who puts in the work and then some. So he's a self-made guy, studies the film, does what he needs to do, and then some in the weight room to make sure, from a physical and mental standpoint, he's as ready for a football game as humanly possible. On film, he's explosive. He's kind of, he fits that stereotype as that old school Mike linebacker where, making plays because he's able to dissect the offense pretty quickly. But, it's not just simply like he's able to see things. He's able to see things and then explode towards the play, which you like to see from your linebacker.
In athleticism, what level is he in terms of like, is he an athletic player? I mean, he's not gonna be Rod Dilworth, but what does he bring in terms of all that speed, quickness, agility?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that stuff is just, what I mentioned as far as being, self-made guy. He's plenty athletic. He's athletic enough for the ACC for sure.
Okay.
But a lot of it is just, he puts in the work to make sure he has that athleticism. He has that strength. He's well put together. You see him in person. I mean, you could tell he spends time in the weight room. He looks like Ross Martin with the shirt off sort of thing.
That's right. Okay. All right, great. Caleb Avali. How many linebackers is UNC? Do you know how many? I know how you hate this question, but
yeah,
are they going to take?
Yeah. So this is one of those where it depends on who's available sort of thing. And then also you don't want to take too many of the same type of guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could take, they want to at least take one more. They could take two more. It all depends on how the chips fall.
And there were a couple other linebackers that visited this past weekend. Okay. And that leads right to our next topic. We're going to break down the official visitors from this weekend. Let's start with the linebackers, Don, and start with Kavion Keys, who took an official visit to, I'm kind of pulling up the profiles and going through it here. Kavion Keys, I mean, 6'3", 205 from Richmond, Virginia. I'm not going to go through everything. He's a 4-star player, 306 in the nation. I took some notes from your article, Don. He wants to be a broadcast journalism major. Wants to commit on his birthday, August 27th, around that time. And his 3 schools kind of remaining, and he's focusing on our UNC, official visits past weekend, Virginia Tech, and Penn State. Your general takeaway quickly here on Kavion Keys off his official visit to UNC.
Yeah, I feel like North Carolina made a very strong impression, and there's definitely a lot of buzz now that UNC is certainly the team to beat, if not, the flat out, eventual selection sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, as you said, there's still a couple official visits left to take.
And he has scheduled. Okay, Kavion Keys, another linebacker. All right, moving right along. Jeremiah T. Lander took an official visit to UNC this past weekend. He's a linebacker from Georgia, 6'2", 220. Kind of a low. Would you call 850 a low 3-star, or is that more of a mid 3-star?
I go mid.
Okay, mid 3-star, 850 in the nation, number 68 linebacker, Jeremiah T. Lander. Let's see my notes. He has official visits scheduled to Louisville and Tennessee. And I love this quote from him. Ready? I'm going to reveal a little premium content here, okay?
That's fine.
Mack Brown said, "Of course he wants me, but I have to wait until I feel peaceful," T. Lander said. "They obviously wanted me to commit before I left, but I feel like to find my peace, I have to go through these other official visits just to level things out." Big peaceful guy. Your thoughts on T. Lander?
The peaceful comment, or just T. Lander in general?
Just as general, your takeaways from your interview with him and the gist of his.
So I've always felt like, just talking to him, and I've spoken to him multiple times, obviously, including after the official visit, but even before this, the Tennessee is definitely a school that he really likes. He's visited there more than any other school. It's close to his home. And so the fact that the Volunteers have that final official visit, for those who read my stuff, They know I'm big on the timing of official visits and getting that final official visit. I feel like is very beneficial for the school who has it. And so I think got to watch out for Tennessee with this. But he did mention, just how North Carolina really kind of set the standard, and Tennessee and Louisville, who's also involved, need to kind of surpass that in order to land his commitment.
Who's the better player, T. Lander or Caleb Lavalley?
Well, according to the rankings, is it Talander, or actually Lavalley might be ranked higher? Let's see. Slightly, Lavalley's ranked higher. So
774 to 850.
Yeah. So, but yeah, well, in the linebacker rankings, Lavalley is 65th and Talander is 68th.
There you go. Just two white middle linebackers from Georgia. All right, good stuff on T. Lander. Moving right along, guys. Here we go. We'll go. So we're done with Keys and T. Lander and Lavalley. We'll go to offensive lineman Luke Burgess. You have talked to him. The interview is not up yet, but by the time you listen to this, it should be up. Luke Burgess, 6'7.5", 285, from Indiana. A 3-star, high 3-star, 425 in the nation, 35th offensive tackle. What's going on with Luke Burgess? I see one crystal ball prediction for Louisville.
Yeah, so down to a 3, Florida State, Louisville, North Carolina. Obviously took official to North Carolina, has the other 2 scheduled also. The main thing, I think, the one thing that Louisville has, the others don't, is proximity. It's about 90 minutes from his home, he told me, 90-minute drive.
Louisville is?
Yeah, whereas North Carolina is, he told me, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So, but the interesting thing, this will be in the story, so I am giving a little bit of premium content away here, is that their flights were canceled, which he actually said ended up being a good thing, because him and his family were able to drive to Chapel Hill, and that gave him a sense of just what they could potentially be dealing with if they had to drive. And so him and his family drove there and drove back home. And yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things where the kid really liked the official visit, felt like UNC set the bar pretty high. But in order for him to feel like he has enough information to make a decision, he has to take these other official visits. But he's one of these guys wants to get this over with. I mean, he's saying, hey, if I can get it over with before the end of June, that's what I'm going to do. At the very latest, he'll commit mid-July, but he says he wants to get this done and over with and have an idea where he wants to go.
Okay. Luke Bird, that's a tough drive. Indiana to Chapel Hill. Okay. Paul Mubinga, he was a late addition to the official visit list from Beaufort, Georgia. UNC's had a couple commitments from Beaufort, Georgia. 6'4", 280, high 3-star, ranked 520 in the nation, 43rd offensive tackle. It's a good interview with him. You know, he was big about him getting to meet Coach Bicknell. He has an official visit scheduled for Michigan, then Texas A&M, and then LSU. And here's an interesting quote I'll share from Mubinga. First thing Bicknell told me is he's not chasing anybody. He wants you to be happy where you go. Second of all, he just told me to be the player that I am because I can easily adjust to the system that they have set up there at UNC. Bicknell not chasing anybody. All right, Don, your thoughts on Paul Mubinga's official visit and recruitment right now?
So I had a question on the message board, maybe it was like a week ago or maybe longer, I don't know, that asked just about Bicknell as a recruiter. Yeah, so the thing with that I'm starting to kind of gather is just what type of recruiter Jack Bicknell is. And I'm not going to say I have a firm grasp just because it's only been a few months, but he's definitely is a guy that the recruits like, but he's not going to be this aggressive, in your face, pound your phone sort of guy. And that's what Mubinga is kind of sort of saying. And I think that appeals to a guy like Mubinga. The thing with Mubinga is he's definitely values academics, which is going to play a major role in his decision. And I think location is also won't matter. He doesn't, Beaufort is one of those schools where, yes, there's teammates, and yes, they play with certain guys, but they're not super connected. But I think North Carolina is definitely a school that appeals to him. It appealed to him when he first visited way back in January, and this official visit was important so that he could spend time with Bicknell and also kind of dive deeper into the academics.
Yeah, there's all different styles of recruiting, and different coaches go different ways. You could go back through a lot of different coaches, and every coach has a different way they like to approach recruiting. And some offensive line coaches, like, I don't know, Cyril's probably was kind of similar. I imagine that wasn't on the phone, wasn't DMing, wasn't texting as much. So sometimes these offensive line coaches have a different style. Ubinga, we listed his top 4: North Carolina, Michigan, LSU, and Texas A&M. UNC is probably the closest, right? You probably drive from Beaufort, whereas the other 3 you have to drive to. Or have to fly to.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you see this kind of going? I mean, this is a big time recruit that
I think
UNC
this is
likes.
I think this is a hard one, because typically what you do is you look at a recruitment, you look at what offers they have, you look at which of those offers are legitimate, and then you kind of say, okay, they're going to go to the bigger school. I think Ubinga is a little bit of a wild card and could choose a school that might not be, the quote unquote big school. So like, he's not a lock to Texas A&M if they want him. He's not a lock to LSU if they want him, sort of thing. I could see him going to Michigan, for academics. I could see him go to North Carolina because of academics. So I think he's a little bit of a wild card, and I think he's going to definitely take a very cerebral approach to his recruitment.
Okay, great. All right, Jabron Harvey, edge rusher from Southern Durham High School, or I guess Durham Southern, 6'3", 215, ranked 211 in the nation, 25th edge rusher, and he's a 24/7 Sports composite 3-star player, number 8 in the state of North Carolina. One of the few kind of top players in North Carolina that UNC is going after.
Yeah, I think the most noteworthy thing from me, and this was in the Camp Scoop, and then also, I think it might have been in the Camp Scoop, but it was definitely in the weekly scoop that we posted earlier this week, is that after his official visit, his parents left and he remained on campus. That's always a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, it all, reading that and kind of seeing what he said in your article, and just how close, I feel like Mack Brown really pushed how close it was, how easy it was, that UNC has everything he needs. So this might be someone that is on a commit watch. What's his recruitment like? What other schools is he looking at? Is it
so Oklahoma kind of came out of nowhere and actually got him to officially visit last week.
Weird.
Yeah, that was a little random. Louisville and South, because I went by his practice, he didn't mention Oklahoma at all. But Louisville and South Carolina official visits that he's had set up for a while. He'll take those visits and then make a decision. I think he definitely wants to go. He's another guy that wants to go through the process. He might know where he wants to go in his head, but he wants to go through the process before making a decision.
Okay. Jabron Harvey from Durham. All right. Desmond Umeozula from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, edge rusher, 6'6", 210, 24/7 Sports composite 4-star, 135 in the nation, number 12 edge rusher. This is a big time recruitment here. One of the top players, has a Ohio State offer, among others. It was your first article you put up after the official visit weekend. What's going on with Umeozula?
Yeah, so he has that Ohio State official visit that last weekend of June. And as we talked about, I feel like that's, if Ohio State wants him, they've put themselves in a really good position to basically get him, because they get the final at bat, they get the final pitch, whatever. I'm sure they're gathering intel post North Carolina visit, he has official visits with Pittsburgh and South Carolina, to know what he liked about those schools, what he didn't like. And they're going to be able to put all that information together, and if they want him, use that to their benefit.
Okay, so what's going on with him and UNC?
Well, I mean, another kid who has, really likes North Carolina's academics. He visited North Carolina twice this offseason. The first time was, I think it was the first time was in January. He's had kind of an interesting recruitment, because he wasn't like a huge recruit early on. Visited North Carolina in January, then absolutely blew up. basically had offers from everyone you could think of. A lot of those schools kind of died down, but before that died down, he returned to North Carolina for a very quick visit. And after that visit, he told me, "Hey, I was just going so that North Carolina knew I was still interested," which I thought was pretty interesting. And obviously returned for the official visit.
Okay. Certainly a big time recruitment with a lot of big players in that. Desmond Umazula. I think I pronounced his last name 3 different ways. This thing.
One of
Okay,
them had to be right.
that's right. And the last one here, Caleb Cost, cornerback, 5'10 and a half, 180 from Sandy Creek High School in Tyrone, Georgia. 3-star prospect, 757 in the nation, and the 67th ranked cornerback. Caleb Cost, Don.
Yeah, so this is a guy that Charlton Warren has really kind of sunk his teeth into. And he kind of fits Warren's mold. He's a Georgia kid. Warren, I believe, is a Georgia native. He's a multi-sport kid. He will get drafted for baseball. It's just a matter of where he goes as far as how that affects his, whether he plays in college or what. But recruiting wise, obviously officially visiting North Carolina. I believe he's officially visiting UCF. And I believe it's not this weekend, it's this week. He might be on it as we speak.
Okay.
And he's down to those 2 schools, and then we'll decide this weekend. The casual fan might listen to this and say, "Oh yeah, North Carolina." You'd be surprised. UCF, go look at, they had a big official visit weekend this past weekend, including I think 3 or 4 North Carolina targets. And if you look at the videos, the photos and all that came out of, they called it bounce house weekend. Seemed like the recruits really had a really good time at UCF this past weekend. Gus Malzahn, of course, is used to competitive recruitments, so I wouldn't count UCF out. But I mean, it's hard to not just look at the competition, but just to look at some of the things he said post North Carolina official visit, and not think highly of North Carolina's chances. I know I kind of contradicted myself, but I'm basically saying, don't overlook UCF. But things look good for North Carolina here.
What position does he play in baseball?
I don't know that answer. I'm sure I probably have it in one of my stories, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. And do you know if he went to any of the games this weekend?
He was not allowed to, because it's a NCAA sanctioned tournament or whatever. NCAA rules prohibit UNC from giving him tickets to it, but he did watch batting practice, and he did tour the baseball facilities and did spend some time with the baseball staff.
Okay, cool. Caleb Cost, and you see he's gonna get drafted. He's the MLB drafts
they have 1,000 rounds,
60 rounds, whatever.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see where he goes and how that impacts his decision. Okay, that wraps up the discussion of the official visitors this weekend. UNC will have 3 more official visits this week. We'll get to those at the end, and no official visits this weekend. But I do want to talk to you about our official sponsor, Johnny T-Shirt, and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, right on Franklin Street and online at JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Guys, a great place to get your Father's Day gifts. Get T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, all the UNC gear. Nothing easier for gift giving than just going through the menu there and picking out a shirt or a hat or a little trinket or something to help your dad be a bigger fan. Father's Day gifts, go on there, use the 10% off 10% off code found on the premium boards to get your gear at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. There's an infant holiday coverall. There's all the Iron 5 gear. There's a woolen gym sweatshirt. There's tons of basketball, football, baseball, all that stuff. Go to Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. A local sponsor, alumni owned, and very local with their warehouse right there in Hillsborough. So go on Franklin Street, Johnny T-Shirt, or JohnnyT-Shirt.com, and make sure to use the premium Inside Carolina premium code for 10% off your order. We'll get back to the podcast after some national ads. We're going to talk about the official visitors that are coming this week, and then the one-day camps and any extra scoop from Don. Sound good, Don?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sounds great.
Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Don, UNC had 2 one-day camps on Saturday and Sunday that were right there with all the baseball stuff. It was a pretty happening weekend in Chapel Hill. What was it like being on campus this weekend?
From a parking standpoint, it was awful. We had to park at Bell Tower and walk all the way over, which after standing on your feet for however many hours is not fun. But yeah, I mean, tons of people down in Chapel Hill, but I'm sure you care more about the football camp than the lacrosse tournament or the softball high school championships or the cheerleader competition or the baseball.
Dang, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
So you're like driving and there's all these signs, park here for this, park here for this. Yeah. So it was a mess.
Wild. So what time? And Gregory was there with you, right?
Gregory and Hawk were there Saturday. Sunday, the baseball game overlapped. And so they had to go over for that.
I think it was a doubleheader on Sunday for baseball.
Yeah. Well, there was doubleheader both days, but if UNC would have won on Saturday, they would have played the late game on Sunday, and then Gregory would have came over to the camp.
Yeah.
But since they lost, they had to play the 1:00 game.
Yep.
Yeah. So we were kind of juggling all this too with the official visitors. It was kind of a crazy weekend.
We appreciate all your coverage. Okay. The Saturday one-day camp, Saturday one-day camp. I mean, I just took a couple notes. Rico Walker was there. I mean, take this however wherever you want to go with it. The Saturday one-day camp. Anything that stood out to you?
Yeah. So I think the important thing overall is that nowadays the camps have basically for the rising seniors, they're not a great opportunity to get a scholarship just because everyone has their boards already set.
Okay.
So you take the seniors, most of the 23s, and there are exceptions, very few exceptions, but most of them, you don't even need to worry about them anymore. And then even for North Carolina's purposes, the top underclassmen they have identified already, they're pushing them to their showcase camp, which was called the Showtime camp, and will be rebranded to something else, which will be announced at a later time. Anyway, so that leaves the camps, for the most part, just opportunities for underclassmen who haven't made a name for themselves to make an impression on UNC. Yes, there are exceptions. There's always exceptions because it's recruiting. But and then on top of that, North Carolina only had 2 camps this summer. Both of them held this past weekend.
Yeah.
Which means that I guess about 1,000 kids camped at UNC this past weekend. So it's even harder to kind of, go through and figure out who really matters, because as you know, I mean, you got to watch a couple reps of a kid to get a feel for them. And it's difficult when you're watching a position group and you're there for 15 minutes and you've only seen each kid gone once, sort of thing. But anyway, Sunday was much better day as far as a talent on the at the camp. Yes, Sunday was. Saturday, Rico Walker was there. That's significant. You want to get him on campus as much as possible. So having him kind of hang around, he was there to support his cousin, but of course UNC scooped him up, made sure they kind of toured him around and spent some time with him and that sort of thing. That was, I guess, the big news, unless I'm missing something or forgetting something, which is very possible. And they had some other unofficial visitors there. But, only Walker spent like a significant amount of time at the camp, and a couple of the official visitors came down and watched.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask, with Rico Walker, has he taken an official visit at UNC yet?
No, so he has not taken any officials. His UNC official visit is scheduled for that final weekend of June, which
okay, the big one.
Yeah, which sounds great, but he, I don't have my notes up on him, but he will probably take the majority of his official visits during the season. So then that might put UNC, at a disadvantage because it doesn't have an official visit bullet to kind of fire later on, closer to his decision date. Yeah, he doesn't have any other official visit scheduled. All right. So as far as actual camp stuff, the big day was Sunday. They had 2 wide receivers there. One was the 23, and that's because there's the potential that North Carolina expands their wide receiver board just to kind of make sure that they get a good amount of receivers signed in this class. The other one was Keenan Jackson, who's going to be one of the top in-state wide receiver, top in-state players. He scored a scholarship offer with his performance. Very good player, good size, catches the ball really well. And so that was the main, and there was like Jeremiah Clark's brother was there. That is the other thing. Jeremiah Clark's brother was there, Joshua Clark. He's a 24. He's a kid definitely to watch out for. UNC could get involved with him, and you got to imagine if UNC offers, they'll be a major player. But also, AJ Blue's son was there. He's a 25 wide receiver who already has a Boston College offer.
Running back, right? Running back.
Running back. As a freshman, ran a 4.6 40, which is super impressive. And then Brandon Tate, who is the son of Brandon Tate, his son was also there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that Dwight Jones's son, who is like something like 6'3", and I think he's an 8th grader, will be at North Carolina's showcase camp.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Where's Dwight Jones living?
I think he lives in Burlington still.
Okay. Okay. A lot to consume there. Check out the reports for premium subscribers from the Saturday and Sunday camps. Maybe we'll link them in this article. One thing I wanted to mention was Galloway's son.
Mm-hmm.
He's a legitimate prospect.
Yeah. No, he's a big boy. And works on his craft. You can tell he's a coach's son, sort of thing. Not to be cliche about it, but I mean, he's the type. It's funny, you watch him, and during the one-on-ones, he runs to a spot. He goes through his rep, runs back to his spot, sort of thing. Exactly what a coach would want to see. Does all the little things right. So yeah, a good sized kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember what he's listed as, but good sized kid.
Hayes Galloway from Concord, 6'3", 300 pounds, offensive guard. I guess the family lives in Concord or something, or
yeah.
He lives in Chapel Hill. Lonnie.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. Was another note I had. That Noah. Oh, this is from the Scoop. But what's going on with the two 1-day camps? What's going on with Noah Rogers?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, who knows?
Okay.
I know that's not the answer you want, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a little bit, it sounds like he made his decision. Sounds like there's some hesitation with that decision. And, this could go a lot of different ways. He could kind of stick to his original decision and this is all moot. Or maybe he opens it up a little bit more, or who knows? I mean, It's just so all over the place. A lot of people are, there was talk that he officially visited Clemson over the weekend.
Okay.
Arrived late, left early. There are some reports that he visited NC State. There's some reports saying that he actually quoted saying he did not visit NC State. There's photos of him with NC State's official visitors from this past weekend. So it's like this thing is a mess, and it's difficult to make, like, everybody's asking me like these pointed questions, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's difficult to kind of say where this thing is at. And on top of all this, he doesn't like the process. He doesn't like answering these questions. He wants it over with, and so that makes it even harder.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like he's cooling on NC State. I saw that. I mean, I haven't really dived too deep in this guy's recruitment, but Noah Rogers, Rolesville wide receiver, number 50 in the nation, 24/7 Sports Composite 4-star player.
The Weekly Scoop lays it out much better than what I just did.
Okay.
And goes a little bit more in detail on some of the stuff that we're hearing from sources and all that, so that you can kind of put the pieces, or try to put the pieces of the puzzle together, because it's a complicated situation.
Doesn't seem like UNC's much of a player.
I mean, they feel like they are. I think a lot is just going to depend on what happens, what we see from him, what he does, and all that.
Okay, great. And as we close up this podcast, let's get into the 3 official visitors this week. I mean, these are all new names to me. I remember DJ Geff a little bit, but there's 3 visiting, all offensive linemen. Stanton Ramil,
Or Mill.
DJ Geff from South Carolina, and Marquis Anderson
Marquis Anderson. Yep.
from South Carolina, and the last 2 are teammates. Sorry. Let's start at the top there. Stanton Ramil from Alabama, 4-star prospect, top 200, 189 in the nation. I mean, what's going on with these visits and specifically Ramil?
Well, Ramil, I mean, he took a bunch of visits in the spring. I mean, you go and look on his Twitter, a bunch of places. North Carolina was one of those stops. He's been a little bit secretive about his official visit schedule. So all we know is he went to Pittsburgh this past weekend. He has a Tennessee official visit scheduled for the weekend of the 17th, which seems like they're a pretty strong player. And then he has this North Carolina official visit, which I'm not sure that he has revealed at all, which is actually begins on Thursday. So it's not even a weekend visit. I've never spoken to him. He's never made himself available to me for an interview. So it's hard for me to say just where things are at with him. But I've been told that North Carolina is definitely a player in this recruitment. But I mean, I think he's another kid who's going to want to take all of his visits.
And he's an offensive lineman. Okay, yeah, I've seen pictures here. He's bigger than his headshot kind of makes it sound. He's from the same high school as UNC's quarterback, right?
Yes, forgot to mention that. So that's one of the connections North Carolina has, is that his former quarterback is at UNC, and I imagine Connor's been around a lot for the camps and the official visit stuff. So I imagine Connor will definitely be involved in this official visit.
Yeah, Connor Harrell, UNC's true freshman quarterback. Okay. Stanton Ramil taking a official visit to UNC. You see he's getting here Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, next offensive lineman, DJ Geff from Dorman High School in Roebuck, South Carolina, 6'4", 300, interior offensive lineman. He's unranked right now in the 24/7 Sports Composite.
Yeah, so it's actually easier just to talk about both him and Marquis at the same time.
Okay.
So they both are officially visit North Carolina together, obviously, as you mentioned. They're also both going to officially visit South Carolina that final weekend of June. The only difference, and that's all Geff has scheduled, and Geff is the son of former UNC basketball player Ed Geff. And the Anderson's official visit schedule also includes Clemson this past weekend, and then he also has an official visit scheduled with LSU for the 17th. But the feeling with these guys, South Carolina is a very, very, very strong player with both. North Carolina obviously is a strong player with both. Anderson's made a bunch of visits to Chapel Hill, so has Geff. So, going back to my philosophy, South Carolina having that last weekend is pretty beneficial for them. And there are some who kind of feel like that. Anderson's never named a leader, but some feel like that South Carolina is the leader, if not stronger than that. So we'll see what North Carolina is able to do. And I think their official visit begins. Actually, their official visit begins today, which is Wednesday. At
South Carolina. No. At UNC. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it begins today. Yeah.
Okay. And Marquis Anderson, offensive tackle, 6'4.5", 305, 125 in the nation, number 5 ranked inside. He's listed as offensive tackle, but he's ranked as a interior lineman. 24/7 Sports Composite, 4-star. So 3 official visitors this week, all offensive linemen. Okay. Anything to add, Don?
No, just no official visitors. No official visitors this weekend. No visitors this weekend.
Okay. What's the rebranding of the Showtime camp?
I've heard some names, but okay. I've been asked not to disclose that information. I'm sure that that's going to come out pretty soon. And it's probably no longer a secret, but.
And when is that?
I've been asked to not reveal that.
Okay.
It's not difficult. If you really want to figure out when it is, it's not difficult to figure that out.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same day every year, you know. Just know I'm very tired on Father's Day.
Okay. All right, Don. Good stuff. A lot of information there, guys. Make sure you check out the premium articles. Subscribe to Inside Carolina. Please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, 5-star ranking, little comment, and then subscribe to our YouTube page, Inside Carolina, on YouTube. We've been doing a good job kind of growing that page. You get all the live videos, all the live streaming, and you can go back and watch all the different podcasts and videos and interviews. Don, anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's get out of here, guys. Appreciate you listening.